The Tzu Chi Foundation began promoting environmental protection in 1990 when Master Cheng Yen appealed to everyone to do recycling work. Today, Tzu Chi has over 70,000 volunteers and more than 5,000 recycling stations and collection points in Taiwan. The Environmental Protection Administration reports that Taiwan's recycling rate, once below 3%, was 48.8% as of the end of last year. This is gratifying news for legions of Tzu Chi volunteers, as they can see 20 years of effort have raised environmental awareness on the island.
Master Cheng Yen first spoke about environmental protection on August 23, 1990, at Taichung's Xinmin High School. Then 24-years-old Yang Pei-san in the audience was moved to take action immediately upon returning home.
After hearing the master speak, I used the two hands that I clapped with to help the environment. When I got home, I turned these thoughts into action.
Yang Pei-san helped set Tzu Chi's recycling mission in motion. The following year, on May 14, 1991, Tzu Chi volunteer Su Juan established Tzu Chi's first recycling point in Taichung's Liming housing complex.
I lead by setting an example. With the recycling points at my front door, my neighbors automatically took their recyclables here. This was the first for Tzu Chi.
The first environmental volunteer, the first recycling point. Infinity starts from one. Now Tzu Chi has over 72,000 environmental volunteers and over 52 collection points for recyclables. 12% of all recyclable bottles collected in Taiwan come from Tzu Chi's efforts. Statistics of Taiwan's EPA show the nation's recycling rate rose from 5.8% in 1998 to 48.8% by the end of 2010.
Around 1998, Taiwan produced over 23,000 tons of garbage per day, and now the figure for the last year was over 11,000 tons, a reduction by almost one-half. When we look at Asia, or even the whole world, Taiwan probably ranks among the top 10 in garbage reduction.
Recycling in Taiwan has become a model for all Asia. Tzu Chi has led the spirit of environmental protection, not only moving along with global trends, but leading them.
When I look at Tzu Chi, I feel there really is no limit to their virtue. There are so many Tzu Chi volunteers. They have several thousand people who can act together.
Tzu Chi's recycling stations also serve as learning centers, educating local communities. No more than 100 centimeters tall and unable to walk due to brittle bone disease, Li Xinghui can still work as a driver, using his electric wheelchair to transport recyclables. 86-year-old Guo Duan, who had undergone joint replacement operations, continues to work for the environment. Though the vehicles she operates have changed over the years, her respect for nature and love for the earth remains the same.
I feel that in recent years, more and more people really want to do more for the environment.
Growing from one hand to several thousands of hands, Tzu Chi's environmental protection work has expanded to extending the usefulness of resources and purification of the mind. To protect the earth, Taiwan must elevate its environmental spirit. As Master Cheng Yen says, "May my vows be as vast as the boundless void. Heaven and earth are now crying for help. All of us need to do good environmental protection deeds, and with our joint efforts, together create good causes and a blessed future for all."
Some 20 years ago, before anyone had heard of global warming, Master Cheng Yen appealed to people who were applauding her speech to use their hands to sort recyclables instead. Now there are over 5,000 recycling stations and collection points in Taiwan. As well as serving the planet, they're also focal points of community life.
Under an old tree beside a field, Bodhisattvas young and old diligently sort recyclables in a natural and carefree atmosphere.
I smile because I like doing this.
It's better than staying at home.
This outdoor recycling point in Ganjin village has no hardware and equipment, just a warm human spirit.
Everyone, come have a cold drink. There are hot drinks too.
这什么味道？
梅子，
吃起来感觉怎么样？
好好吃。
Some volunteers bring refreshments, others bring food to cook. For the utilities used, volunteers vow to give their support.
The water comes directly from my house through a pipe running along the ground.
To me, this recycling point feels like home.
With over 5,000 locations throughout Taiwan today, Tzu Chi recycling points are also spiritual harbors to volunteers. Whether in busy and expensive urban districts, in a quiet village on Taiwan's southernmost tip, Pingdong, or on the island of Penghu, where yacht becomes a recycling boat and transports resources to be recycled. Tzu Chi's recycling points are everywhere. With children playing nearby, recycling points can be green parks and spaces. They can be places of learning. And they can be places for healing the spirit.
The Master says blessings will flow to an open heart. If we're happier, our spirits will be light and peaceful, and naturally we'll be healthier. People say illness is caused 70% by the mind and 30% by the body. A happy mind keeps sickness at bay.
A calm mind leads to a healthy body.
The Master said we can take nothing from this life with us but our karma, and a spacious house cannot compare to a spacious heart. After hearing this, everything became clear to me.
Master Cheng Yen tells us not to undervalue ourselves. People have unlimited potentials. Hearing that, I felt I can help too.
Recycling turns the ever-turning wheel of the mind. It can clear away haziness and bring sunshine. Over more than 20 years, Tzu Chi's recycling work has created more than 5,000 homes for the spirit, opening doors of the heart.
For more than 20 years, recycling has been a pillar of Tzu Chi's work around the world. There are over 15,000 environmental volunteers in countries like China, South Africa, the Philippines, Malaysia and Singapore. In Singapore, all garbage was previously collected and sent to incinerators, but now there are 16 recycling points in the city-state and 1,000 environmental volunteers who help heighten awareness about conservation.
Tzu Chi volunteers are spreading the idea of environmental protection around the world. Over 15,000 recycling volunteers are spread across 40 countries on 5 continents, excluding Taiwan and China. Previously in high-tech Singapore, dealing with garbage simply meant throwing it down a trash chute and into a bin without sorting. All garbage would be collected and trucked to incinerators. Due to such convenient method, the importance of environmental protection was neglected. Step by step, Tzu Chi volunteers started promoting recycling at the community level. Singaporeans once let usable resources become ashes, but now are willing to spend more time and effort to recycle, advancing the country's environmental awareness along with the times.
I found within the recycling categories, even more sorting could be done.
Environmental protection is rooted in the idea that infinity starts from one. In the Philippines, the starting point for local Tzu Chi volunteers was at its garbage mountains and slums. July 2001, Typhoon Wuter caused the garbage mountain to collapse, killing more than 100 people. Taking part in rescue and relief efforts, Tzu Chi became aware of the garbage mountain problem and began the local environmental mission.
For our people to realize the importance of life and love and giving, sharing.
From compassion grows willpower and great aspirations. In Malaysia's Penang, many people need dialysis but cannot afford the medical fees. Tzu Chi established a center offering free dialysis to those in need. founded by recycling work done by volunteers. With many people much strength and high spirits, the merit of their deeds circulate unceasingly. 16 years later and after many recognitions, currently in Malaysia there are 720 recycling points, with over 10,000 volunteers both young and old.
There are many elderly bodhisattvas at recycling points because they can feel dignified and happy. My own mother is happy to work in one.
Environmental protection is essential in countries with high population density. But in less crowded South Africa, Tzu Chi volunteers carry out recycling in the same spirit. No one likes the filth and odor of a public garbage container, but Tzu Chi volunteers see valuable resources. Serving the land they live on, volunteers empower local residents. A South African bodhisattva visits Tzu Chi's birthplace, Taiwan.
In the beginning, I didn't believe. Our brother used to tell us in South Africa that we make blankets. Do you know where these blankets come from? Can't believe it. Blankets can be made with bottles. Now, our dreams come true.
A grateful and loving heart spreads overseas from Taiwan over the whole world. A green life recognizes all life must share the limited resources of this planet. Tzu Chi's efforts to protect the earth have deep and strong roots. For over 20 years, Tzu Chi has been recycling and reusing resources, helping Taiwan reduce the volume of garbage it produces. Together with the dye technology company founded by Tzu Chi volunteers, the Buddhist NGO also turns plastic bottles, which would take 1,000 years to decompose, into warm blankets that can also be used for disaster relief. Extending the life of resources and spreading love internationally has a huge impact. But Master Cheng Yen teaches that purification should begin at the source, which means instead of taking our trash to the recycling station, we should stop consuming and wasting, and lead simple and content lives. Pulling, pushing, and throwing rocks. In February 1998, residents of Zhanghua County's Xizhou Township clashed with police in violent protests over a planned incinerator.
It will foul the air where we stand. I can't allow it.
Whether incinerators or landfills, residents do not want waste treatment facilities nearby. But we are all producers of garbage. Its source is you and I.
The stench is unbearable. It's really intense. Even wearing a mask, you can smell it.
I do it for the earth. If we go on like this, the joy that stirs our hearts eventually blocks the stench.
Turning rejection into acceptance and turning waste into recycling. Master Cheng Yen's call to recycle motivated tens of thousands of loving bodhisattvas and some 20 years of environmental mission. Action spreads from one person to a whole family, to a community, a company and institutions. From small to big, from one point to a line, to a whole surface, eventually leading to the formation of dye technology. The company takes PET bottles that won't decay for 1,000 years and turns them into thermal blankets. The technology won international recognitions and helps with global disaster relief. In Japan, a warm blanket and a gentle embrace comfort calamity-stricken victims who lost their home and loved ones.
Draping a blanket over that elderly woman, seeing it on her shoulders, it's a moving feeling. It's like we turn something very negative into good use and transform it into warmth. What is needed in the middle of all this is love. We Buddhists say a lotus blooms out of the mud. Everyone can see the filthy mud, but all it needs inside is a loving heart, and its pure nature will ultimately grow into a beautiful flower.
Who would have thought that garbage would become a tool that connects people? The Master now reminds us that purification begins at the source.
这20年的环保，咱应该呢，爱更上一层楼。这个地球呢，是大地众生啦，情义无情共住的地方吼，所以咱应该爱来疼惜爱爱。那这个环保呢， 精直化哈，清净在源头哈。那希望咱大家人呢爱动员起来。
Purification at the source means practicing environmental protection at home, returning to a thrifty life, eating and dressing simply, and not grasping after desires.